Keep California cowgirls from vanishing.
Welcome to the Urban Cowgirl Show. Training our horses and miniature cows in ranch versatility. Penning Rusty and Susie, our bull and heifer. Roping Rusty with Morgan horse Semi. Training Eve to drive cart. Training Eve to work over her haunches with a motor cow simulator. Training Eve to lay down. Training Eve to harness, pull a log. Training Semi to harness, pull a log on turf. Jumping at Liberty to music, making our Morgan horses our partners. Training Eve on a cow roping simulator. Training on our driveway, which is covered by sand, so we have a straight track. Stepping over poles, jumping over crossbar jumps. Training in our trail obstacles area. Semi on the big steps. Morgan horse Sadie doing obstacles rainlessly.
Semi drives a cart. Sadie pulls a log. Sadie learns to pull a cart. Miniature zebu heifer Susie learns to drive a cart. Bull Rusty learns to pull a harrow.
Sonia Sokol, the Urban Cowgirl. We're doing a show today that's called To Shoe or Not to Shoe. I have 3 Morgan horses. All 3 of them have been shoeless other than a couple of lameness issues that we've had over the years. All 3 of them have done everything I've asked them to do as ranch versatile Morgans. But now I'm having some issues with Eve and her daughter Sadie. Both of them had a bout with possible founder laminitis within the last 2 years. And their hooves are growing down now, and I'm finding that they are not only soft in the sole, but crumbling around the edges. And so I'm trying to make some decisions today. This is Lawrence Hurst, my farrier, and he's going to help me decide whether or not to at least temporarily shoe even Sadie in the front. We have been using caballos on them for, I guess the last 6 weeks. And that works, but it's time consuming. There are issues about potential holes in the bottom of their hooves that I'm concerned about. Rocks, sand, whatever getting stuck in them. So today I may make the decision with the help of Lawrence to shoe. So we'll turn the camera back on when Eve and Sadie come to this railroad tie. Right now this is Semi. She has a different gene pool. She is the legacy of my stallion, and her mother is double track Demi Moore, who has rock hard hooves, and Semi, knock on wood, also seems to have rock hard hooves. So the issue is not with Semi, the issue is with Eve and Sadie, and we'll show you when we turn the camera back on. Okay, now we're working with Sadie. She's my youngest mare, daughter to Firecrest Easter Eve. This is Shadrach Sun and Shine Sadie. You see she has caballos on the front, and on the front right she has a sock wrapped with duct tape so it doesn't slip into the caballos. And the reason that we have done this for the last 4 weeks or so is because we noticed a little hole in her sole. My driveway here has some crusher run base, different size rocks, and she is traveled along the driveway to get to her pasture turnout. and because, this is my guess, and we'll confirm with Lawrence, because her soles are not rock hard like Semi's are, these little rocks can become pesky. And as a matter of fact, Sadie got an abscess.
Watch the knee. This is even before we've trimmed anything. And she's got, what, 6 weeks worth of growth.
Which means what to you?
Well, you can see that knee going forward. She can feel me doing this, and this is...
I see. Your hoof testing. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. Okay.
So
there's no doubt in your mind.
That's even before trimming that she's already sore.
Yes. So there's no doubt in your mind she needs shoes at this time. At least on the front.
Or those always on. My thing, that's why I said about the irrigation, is maybe that's one of the things keeping them soft. And of course those boots, they don't breathe quite as good as steel because they're enclosed. Whether that's keeping them soft and stopping Mother Nature from toughing them up. I have seen some. There's one at a ranch in Felton. The lady did the natural trimming for 2 weeks. She didn't tell me that when she asked me to hoof test the horse. New horse to me, big warm blood fellow. I hoof tested it, and he was flinchy like this, and I said, well, you know, that doesn't happen overnight. Give him a little. And then she pointed out it had been 2 years, and he had never toughened up. So some of them don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't want to say that in a natural trimming thing. But who's the one that kind of gets a bad rap? The German lady, German heritage lady. Anyway,
I don't know.
I've forgotten her name, but she is all for let them suffer. They will toughen up eventually. And it's like, hey, if it's the fact we bred them wrong and made their feet like this, they don't deserve to suffer because we screwed up.
Right. My biggest concern, and I have a number of shows on Sadie's abscess that she got, even after we were so very, very careful with the hole, somehow something got infected in that hole, even after it closed up. That's my guess. And you can watch the videos about this. I've followed it all the way through. As a matter of fact, it's been watched by 100 people. I'll give you a scissors. My biggest concern is that these holes will become more serious problems.
Yeah, see, I can feel that soul give with my thumb.
Here's surgical scissors to get that tape off. And you can see that the socks have multiple holes. We were trying to make them work until today. That's just to make sure, to make it very unlikely, even with the cavallos, that she'll get anything into that hole. And now my cameraman, when we get this open, is going to show you the hole that we're concerned about.
Probably won't be able to see it, no matter how much I zoom.
I know. I'm going to try to point to it or have Lawrence point to it.
I assume we're talking about this one, right up in the toe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can get it pretty good.
Now you know that Brianna and Ryan clean out my horse's hooves every single morning, and then we do what we have to do to keep them healthy, but it's becoming almost untenable. I mean, it's just not even reasonable.
Well, this one is due to the old separation of the lamina. It's just, it shouldn't be this wide, so it's given dirt a place to be where it should
I see.
be able to get in.
But as clean as we kept that last one, it still got infected, Lawrence. That's our guess. So now what I'm going to ask you is, with that hole, if you put a shoe on it, are we pretty confident that nothing will get into it?
Well, things can still get into it because that's right where the shoe would be covering up.
Right. So am I at a catch-22 now? Do we just have to continue the cavallos and the socks, which I sew, by the way? I wish I could find horse socks on the market. But I take 2 men's socks, I cut off the tops, and I sew the bottoms together. Okay.
Well, the shoe would cover that up and make it much harder to get at to clean. You're leaving the boots on 24/7 or just when you're working her?
No, 24/7 right now because I'm afraid. But you know, I'm going to show you with Eve. One of my border horses got in with her, and she got very upset and ran back and forth over in her pasture, which is soft, ground with turf on it. And she came back with crumble on the edges of her hooves. So my feeling is either it's left over from a long time ago, laminitis growing down, or the caballos have softened up the edges of her hooves.
Well, that's right, because you can tell with this one, it must be partially due to the salt thing. See that whiteness there?
Yes.
Way too mushy for a horse hoof.
Okay, Ryan, can you zoom in on that where he's pointing to the softness? Too mushy.
Yeah, and this is all too mushy all around here.
Okay, Lawrence, I'm at wit's end.
Yeah.
And as I told you by email prior to this appointment, I want to give you the history since the last time you were here 6 weeks ago, and then I have to bow to your experience and opinions and do what you want to do.
But this one, if we're going to cover it up with a shoe, I think we need to bondo that in first to prevent, like use some kind of caulking or something in there so that we can't stop liquid from getting in, but we can't stop soil and
But if it does abscess in there under the bondo,
well, she'd
you
still
have to remove the shoe.
Yes, she would still go lame the same way she did before. The only other way to do that is to right now go in through the toe wall, but I don't see wanting to destroy that when so far it's just a little dirt hole.
Right, and that's because we've been so meticulous. We're going to stop the camera for a minute, and my cameraman's going to move the camera over here so you can see the sole.
Come on, big girl.
Okay, now, here is the hoof after trimming. We're going
But
to
not
show...
trimmed, we just cut out the dead sole part.
Okay, dead
trimmed,
sole. Brianna, who's here, who has cared for Sadie very meticulously, stopped using the iodine. Can you explain that?
I used the iodine for, I thought maybe 4 weeks, but it was probably more like 3.5 weeks. And I was really worried about how dry the hooves were getting. They looked harder, but they were getting so dry and flaky, I just wasn't sure if we should continue. I ended up using some hoof toughener that we had in the tack room that also has some moisturizing type agent that toughens and keeps the moisture in. That seemed to be working pretty well. But I was so worried about the dryness of the hoof that I just discontinued.
The moisturizer toughener was called Tough Stuff. Yes. Is it all gone?
It's mostly all gone. There's probably about a tablespoon left.
Okay. And it has an applicator,
you can still
right?
see. Yeah. How long ago was her episode of laminitis?
That was months ago, but the abscess was maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Because you can still see we still have a ton of separation on her. And this is what it should look like. That line there should be that thickness, and look how thick it is. There, and then you also see the top. That's the only healthy stuff. See how that foot looks straight and then it shoots out?
Yeah.
Right at that warp.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on both, so it's not just due, if it was just one, it would be due to the abscess.
Yes.
But it's on both.
Yes.
So she's been trying to refounder on you during this. It would be my guess. That it's continuing right before your very eyes. I mean, that's only maybe a month's worth of healthy growth.
Yes. Ryan, Brianna's going to help you move the camera caddy. Would you come and get that? I see the angle he's talking about, which I hadn't noticed before. Thank goodness we have experienced experts, compassionate, caring, like Lawrence. Okay, show it again, please.
You can see on both front hooves this line going around here. This to me looks like that should be her normal angle, and yet the toe is taking off. The only time we knew she had a laminate episode was months ago, and that's only about a month's worth of growth. So I think it's obviously been very mild because she hasn't been lame, but she's continuing to founder. And you can see the same thing on the other hoof. She did have an abscess which could account for it being on one foot, but not both.
Okay, now in her boots we had, her caballos, we had the extra supports too. We took them out.
Well, that's probably why the bone didn't move.
Yeah.
But she's still, and that could also explain why her sole is still so thin.
Okay.
The inserts were starting to crush. The frog was getting really crushed. And
Yeah. Well, that's what they're trying to do, is put the weight
really
there.
Weird, so,
Yeah.
Brianna, could you find the extra supports that we put in these caballos so we can show them? Okay.
You have me hoof testing the other foot. I don't want to torture her again if she, because I know she's going to flinch on this one.
We got that on video, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. These are the extra inserts. That's for size 2. That's Sadie's hoof.
So
and
these held up well, but it was starting to beat up on her.
Yeah.
On her.
That was our guess about maybe 2 weeks ago.
Well, the idea is to transfer the weight. That's why the
Absolutely.
frog part is higher. So you're trying to transfer it there off her toe and stuff. So actually, they did their job. But yeah, once they start doing more damage than good, it's time to pull them.
Right. And these are the caballos, available everywhere now. Okay.
Might want to go shut the sprinklers off.
Oh yeah, they're gonna hit us once they turn on here.
You want me to go do it?
Yeah.
They reach all the way to the hitching post. I don't know
Okay.
if it's supposed to.
Put it on the board that we shut it off. I do irrigate here. So that's why our grass is green everywhere, but that's why the ground is soft and wet always. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera back on when we're discussing the factors that we're going to use in making our final decision of how to help Sadie's hooves stay hard and sound. It looks like we're going to shoe at least the fronts.
Okay, all this should not be there. This gap about that big should be about the size, the thickness of a nickel or so. So all that is fake hoof, which is adding. So we really need to take that off. So I was just checking the angles to see what she comes out that way. Because just as a saddle horse, you look at her with that foot flat, and I don't like that angle. You want this. That angle should match this one.
I see.
You want a nice shoulder, and it should go right through there, and you can see it come through the pastern, and then the hoof does this. But I think if we were back where the new healthy hoof has come in, we would have that angle. So Mother Nature wants her to have the right angle, but with the laminitis, whatever's been going on, she's changing it.
Now, I'm not sure what triggered found her a couple months ago, but she is on a daily diet of hayrow with wetted beet pulp. And I'm going to show you what it is so that she can still go out and pasture.
I wanted to ask you, it says on the bottle that if the foot is sore, you should use tube.
Oh.
So I don't know.
You know, I will email Dr. Riley that question.
Okay.
And then we have to define what is sore. This is the hayrow that I get once a month delivered to me. And Dr. Riley, R-E-I-L-L-E-Y, is very responsive to my questions. And although a lot of his data is maybe anecdotal, he does have some good testimonials. My biggest concern to do this now is, yes, am I making sure that she can never be shoeless again? Lawrence, will her hooves toughen up even if she has shoes? If they're gonna toughen up.
You don't too often get the actual sole to thicken more. And since we're doing this right now without x-rays, I remember we saw the x-rays when she was laminitic and she seemed to have plenty of space there.
Yes.
So if it's just soft soles, maybe to do with the irrigated pastures, something like that, yes, they should toughen up. If it's a naturally thin sole, they don't. You can't make sole work.
But when she was younger, she was growing up, I have videos of her running around here on the driveways, galloping, no problem without shoes. Yeah. So I'm, I guess, hopeful that with each and every visit we'll decide whether it's time to take the shoes off. We'll turn the camera back on when Lauren starts putting the shoe on. Okay, now we're working on the left front. There are some pink marks there, so Lawrence is trimming away the sole a little bit more, and when he decides what he's going to do to protect that part of her sole, we'll put it on the video. We may go to aluminum or rubber, right? Maybe in the spring?
They're like a polyurethane, but yeah, they look like rubber.
Okay, so we'll turn off the camera again for another few minutes until there's another fact to give you. Here are some options for the future and for the present.
This is the ground control one. This one I haven't experimented with much, but I didn't like the fact it has holes and yet no way to really clean.
Yes.
This one is flexible enough you can actually pull it up at the heel, so it gives you some cleaning. And I have used these on my own horse just when they came out. I don't normally put them on him, but it was more just to see the wearability. And if you're riding twice a week, I'm a trail rider, you can actually reset these things once or twice. Pretty good shoe. It's out of Michigan, called Flex Step, and those are ground controls. This particular one. This is their firm. They come in different stuff. This is a firm one because it's intended to be used as a shoe, not a pad. But
okay, and so for Sadie today, have you decided what we are going to use today?
On her,
yeah.
She's getting what are called natural balance shoes, which means the toe of them is basically squared off. It's just an old-fashioned square-toed shoe. So I can start getting that lamina away because it's you can really see it on this left front. It is it's got to be a good inch more hoof than she needs to be carrying stuck out there.
Okay, we can't move the camera.
Well, he may be able to see from underneath.
Oh.
But this is where her sole actually ends, and that's the spread lamina right there.
And it's supposed to be no thicker than a nickel.
The side of a nickel, yep. And so there we've got more than an inch of extra foot she's lugging around with her, which of course is going to change her breakover and her stride and everything.
I am resigned to the fact that we are going to shoe her on the front. I'm sure hoping we don't have to shoe her in the back too. So we'll turn off the camera again until we're ready for the next step. Okay, we're doing the Bondo now, is that correct?
This is actually something very similar to just window caulking to fill in a couple of the holes since you won't be able to clean them for a few weeks.
Okay. And you see how we brought that little rug out to make sure, especially on the right where she has that existing hole, it's very clear and clean before we put a shoe on.
Under the pad.
It's a little piece of mesh that goes on under the pad.
Well, under the shoe, and then it will be turning into a pad that will wear out in about 3 weeks.
I see. Okay.
You won't have to take it off or anything. It'll just disappear all on its own.
Aha, I've never seen that. Okay, and now Lawrence is saying, even though I'm afraid of nails, he's saying that he thinks the nails in this case is going to be helpful to Sadie to, I think, keep that lamina from stretching anymore?
Yes, with the glue on shoes or anything other than the nailing of them, the hoof will still spread, and actually the hoof spreading doesn't matter, but when the hoof spreads, the sole has to stretch with it, and so the sole comes down more, which is causing some of the bruising.
Is she uncomfortable?
If you recall, remember, she's only had this second set of shoes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So she's not quite used to this. And then on top of it, if you recall when we did it when she was really in pain, she bulldozed you all over the yard. We got the grand tour of your property while kneeling on a shoe.
Yeah, and also she's bruised on the other foot too.
Yeah, being forced to stand on a sore one. I finally got a few vets to agree with me that stress can cause founder.
Yes.
They always used to, you know, 3 things: water, road, or food.
Yeah.
You know? Well, they'd throw in gestation, but they'd hardly ever blame gestation unless the mare retained a placenta or something like that. So they wanted to fit in those categories, and sometimes I would just see a horse that was prone to it, like a guy like this, overweight and has insulin resistance issues, or sometimes thyroid problems and things like that. And then all it takes is some additional stress, could be as minor as take away their buddy.
Yeah.
And they run around like an idiot. And I think that Klein and I think that's the case with one I work on up in Bonnie Doon. Strictly because when the horse went slightly off, which I do think was a pulled shoulder muscle, it's the only thing I could get the horse to react on. So the husband continued to ride, and he went to work his cattle one day, came home, and the other little guy completely lame, and he had been getting better. But all of a sudden, you know, from the pulled shoulder. So we think he just freaked himself out, so upset. Vet Tech product. If we can get it to come out here.
Like a caulking gun, and he's going to shoot the glue in now that he is.
Yes, and this stuff will set up in there. The good part about this, as opposed to a regular, like polyurethane type pad, is it will just disintegrate on its own in 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes. Now we have to let the, what do you call that? A Vet Tech?
This is Vet Tech, and it's their soft packing material.
Okay.
They also make a hard one, and they also make the glue. When you're talking about gluing on aluminum, so they also are the company that makes that.
Okay.
At least as far as the real good products, there are lots of companies that make them. This stuff usually does what they say it will do.
Okay.
That's
and now
already
it's set up.
Yeah.
We had to hold up her foot for about, I'd say, 1.5 minutes. The backs are doing good. Lauren says there's no stretched lamina, no sign of bruising. Look how nice Sadie's standing with her weight on the front. We feel that we're, at least so far, based on the reaction we're getting from Shadrach, Sun and Shine Sadie, that we made the right decision, and only time will tell.
Our cast of characters: Sadie and Eve, Sammy, Rusty and Susie, Heifer Calf Sela. For more information, www.cowgirlchannel.com.